Hey guys, Ron here, and I'm a sucker for legendary Pokemon. I can't get enough of them. According to 74% of my viewers, legendaries are among their top 10 favorite Pokemon. You see, a couple of months ago I made a poll containing a bunch of questions on starter Pokemon for you guys to fill out. I made a video on the results and you guys wanted more, so I asked you guys on my community tab and Twitter a bunch of legendary Pokemon questions, and I'll go over the results today. Legendaries are becoming controversial, so this is very interesting. A vast majority even said that legendaries are becoming less special. Virtually all of us agree that legendaries should be hard to obtain, and since 80% consider mythical Pokemon to be a subset of legendary Pokemon, they're 100% in this video. 90% believe that mythicals should be gifted with story and additional gameplay, and this lack of additional content over the last few gens is making them less worth the hype. But which generations got it right? How many legendary Pokemon should each generation have? The sweet spot seems to be 10 legendary Pokemon like there were in Gen 3, perhaps even 13 like in both Gens 4 and 5, where the legendary designs became more and more complex. Is that something people appreciate? Well, 68% say that legendary Pokemon designs should only be slightly more complex than that of average Pokemon. But before going into the results of the individual Pokemon, you should know that the following metric probably skewed the results. 2/3 of my viewers tend to fall in love with the legendaries from the first generation they played. But what do they prioritize when judging a legendary Pokemon? Almost everybody said design, obviously, with lore and backstory a close second. Then it's all about how interesting the concept is, how they implemented it into the in-game plot, and how cool it is, versus things that aren't as important like cuteness, having extra forms, or how good it is competitively, although that sometimes affects the results. What makes a bad legendary? Ones with bad designs, no backstory or relevance to the game's plot, and therefore a boring way of being obtained. But let's get into the actual results. I asked you guys which Pokemon you prefer among their trios and groups, and I also gave you a separate question where you got to pick as many legendary Pokemon as possible, which allowed me to rank the legendaries based on the percentage of people that picked a specific legendary Pokemon. Let's begin in Pokedex order, starting with Kanto's legendary birds. I asked you guys which of the trio you preferred, and Articuno won. Zapdos is relatively close, but Moltres is far behind. Clearly the most unpopular of the three. I want to give a thanks to Joey PokeMMD for looking over these results and giving me insight in how competitive battling could have skewed the results. Now this trio's results are undoubtedly based on design, considering Articuno is the worst of the three competitively. Since these three have regional forms, I asked which form you prefer. It's pretty much split between both forms of Articuno and Zapdos, but considering Galarian Moltres' flamboyant presence, it is way more popular than its Cantonian form. When I allowed you guys to pick as many legendary Pokemon that you like, here were the results. All of the legendary birds were a good deal above average in popularity. A tier except for original Moltres, who is below average in C tier. People think its design is too goofy and perhaps simple for a legendary Pokemon, at least compared to the successful designs of its trio companions and forms. Galarian Moltres, being the most popular of all six, is a cool redemption arc though. Well deserved. Mewtwo and Mew were way simpler. Both were well above average, with Mew surprisingly being slightly more popular, even though fans say that they don't prioritize cute legendary Pokemon. Perhaps this mythical's lore, rarity, and concept compensate for that. Both are A tier though, a point or two away from A+. Time for the legendary beasts of Johto. Suicune seems to be the fan favorite considering it's the most prominent in media, has a majestic design, and is the best competitively among the three. Raikou and Entei are pretty much even. All three are above average, but Suicune has it all for most people. As a group, they're above average too, but ever so slightly less popular than the legendary birds, now that the Galarian forms exist. Lugia is a tier above Ho-Oh in popularity, considering its design and appearances in the anime, and the highest rated legendary so far, with 70% of the vote. Lugia is an A+, while Ho-Oh is an A. The two as a duo are more popular than the previous trios. Celebi managed to be relatively average compared to all other legendaries. It's cute and unique, but nothing that people go crazy for when it comes to legendaries. Gen 3 time. The original 3 Reggie seem to be the least popular legendary so far, which is funny considering people praise the way they're obtained and their backstory. Unfortunately, people don't find their design all that interesting. Regirock is the least popular. Perhaps people think a rock golem is too simple for a legendary. Regice is second, but Registeel is the most popular by a bit. It's the best of the three competitively and has a more unique design, but we'll talk about the complete set later. The Eon duo is relatively above average in popularity. People like Latios a bit more because it's more useful in the metagame and looks cooler, something people prioritize, at least compared to Latios' cuteness. Very solid legendaries, A for Latios and B for Latios. The Weather Trio, or Super Ancient Pokemon, are up next. Kyogre seems to be slightly above Groudon, with an A+ and A respectively, but Rayquaza is not only far more popular within the group, but is the most popular Pokemon so far. It's an S tier Pokemon in Legendary. Will it maintain the highest score? Let's see. I know for sure that Rayquaza made the Weather Trio the most popular group as well. It has an amazing design, lore, concept, in-game relevance, and method of catching. It's all you want in a legendary Pokemon, while Groudon and Kyogre are way above average as well, just not as cool as a Dragon God. Jirachi, however, received the most average score out of any Pokemon in this video. Neither hated nor absolutely beloved. Deoxys, though, is above average. It's cool, it's hip, it has plot relevance, it's a killer space virus. But which form is everybody's favorite? Attack form, with its base form as second. Interesting to note that when excluding its base form, the results are in order of how useful they are in battle. But we also can admit that attack form is the coolest, and speed form is pretty sweet as well. Even defense form is exciting. Gen 4 has a diverse selection of legendaries. When it comes to the Lake Guardians, Azelf's design is most appealing, and more useful than Uxie and Mesprit, who are a few tiers below Azelf, with Mesprit at the bottom. That's right, the Lake Guardians are some of the most unpopular Pokemon on this list. Uxie in D tier, and Mesprit is our first F tier. People seem to be pissed about its roaming nature. It's technically the second most unpopular legendary, but the trio itself is the second least popular group of legendaries. To many fans, they all share very similar, simple designs, don't have any exciting impact on the game's experience, and aren't as cool as a majority of legendaries. The Creation Trio's results are interesting. It's clear that Giratina is way more popular than Dialga, and Dialga seems to be more popular than Palkia, but when I gave you the ability to choose as many legendaries as you wanted, almost 80% chose Giratina, almost 75% chose Dialga, and 55% chose Palkia, who is still above average, but both Dialga and Giratina seem to be A+ tier legendary Pokemon. Giratina is actually the second most popular legendary on this list. As a trio, disregarding numbers, when I asked you guys your favorite, the Creation Trio even beat the Weather Trio. I guess as a concept, people think it's the loftiest and most legendary a trio of Pokemon can be. And of course, Origin Form is more beloved than Altered Form Giratina. It's a better design and has a slight edge against Pokemon like Groudon in competitive. Heatran, on the other hand, is relatively unpopular, D-tier material. It's not a design that fans latch onto, and its lore is uninteresting. The first legendary in Pokemon to just exist without any real impact or mystique. Regigigas is slightly more popular, but still a bit below average in popularity. At this time though, it's the most popular Regi. Cresselia's reception is very similar to Regigigas, a C-tier legend without much of a following. It's pretty, but not cool, and many fans don't even know what Cresselia does or its backstory. Unlike other legendaries, there is no desire to find one, but compared to the next one, it's not half bad. I asked you guys if you consider Fione a legendary, and more than half said no. This liminal existence has officially made Fione the most unpopular legendary Pokemon, with 10% of fans enjoying its presence. Manaphy, a D-tier legendary, does better, but not enough. There's nothing unique or legendary about it. Its mythicality is all down to its rarity. To obtain one, you have to get yourself an original copy of Pokemon Ranger. Not many people's favorite catching method. But guess what Pokemon raises the value of this entire generation? Darkrai. With 78% of the vote, it's the third most popular legendary here. It has everything you want from a legendary Pokemon. Cool design, lore, and even a story to go with its event. Shaman ain't half bad either. While you guys clearly prefer Skyform for multiple reasons, like its battle prowess and cooler design, both together as one are slightly above average. Even more popular than Pokemon like Celebi and Jirachi, a group that I call Pixie Mythicals. Arceus finishes this generation off on a fine note. It's relatively popular, considering it's God. It managed to land itself in high A tier, apparently more popular than Pokemon like Mewtwo, Suicune, and Deoxys. I did not expect that. Let me know why you think Arceus has risen in popularity, at least from my perspective. Gen 5 time, or Gen V for Victini, who actually got the most votes for a Pixie Mythical at this point of the video, not counting Mew of course. With a unique concept and well-executed event, this Pokemon isn't one people complain about. The Swords of Justice, on the other hand, are another trio where all three are unpopular. Cobalion and Virizion have a pretty much the exact same reception. C-tier legendaries, so not that embarrassing, but Terrakion is fairly unpopular, even though it's one of the best Pokemon competitively. While all fans think these Pokemon are rather uneventful and have uncanny faces, Terrakion is the target of most of this hatred, considering Cobalion at least looks like a leader, and Virizion is somewhat pretty. As a trio, not counting Keldeo, they at least are more popular than the Lake Guardians. But the next trio is even more unpopular. Actually, the least popular group of legendaries in this video. The Forces of Nature, Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. When given the option to choose only one, Thundurus wins by a lot, despite Lando T being incredibly famous in battle. If this was not counting forms though, this would make sense. Perhaps its color scheme is the least controversial, but maybe people like the design of its Therian form the most. People are pretty split on both Tornadus forms, but Thundurus T is pretty popular, as well as Landorus Therian form compared to its original. But bringing the honor of Gen 5 back, we have the Tau Trio. Zekrom seems to be a fan favorite considering its design is the definition of cool, but Reshiram isn't too far behind, while Kyurem is the first trio master to be the least popular of its group, despite its forms being the best in battle among the trio. But overall, all three have above average popularity, with Reshiram in A tier and Zekrom in A+ tier. The Tao trio is far from controversial. Kyurem Black is way better and competitive, therefore winning, but I'm sure Zekrom's design helped boost Kyurem Black's notoriety. Keldeo is pretty much as popular as the other Swords of Justice, so not that popular, but pretty high considering he's the newest addition to the group. Keldeo's Resolute form made him even more popular than in Black and White. Meloetta doesn't manage to be more popular than Keldeo, with only 31% of people choosing it when having as many choices as possible. People even prefer its Aria form over Pirouette form. It really seems to be the antithesis of what most popular legendaries look like, and even represent conceptually. But Genesect finishes Gen 5 with a bit of redemption. While obviously not as popular as literal gods like Dialga and Kyogre, it's slightly above average, with half of my viewers saying they love this bionic bug. Gen 6's Aura Trio doesn't do too bad either, while the reception of Zygarde isn't as strong as the other two, considering its implementation was not well executed and its design isn't as exciting. In the overall score, it received an above average score, probably because of its forms, and Zygarde Complete appropriately gets half of the votes. Yveltal manages to be an A+ tier for its badass design, Xerneas gets an A for its beautiful aura, and domination in VGC. Zygarde almost making A tier with a high B+ score. The Aura Trio is generally favorable, above average as a trio. Diancie gets a pretty low score of almost 30%, a high D at best when it comes to legendaries. Hoopa manages to get a bit higher thanks to its confined form. I bet if this form was revealed first and Hoopa had some great lore and story-based event, he would be way more popular. But Volcanion seems to be the least popular Kalos mythical, despite being the most traditionally legendary looking, I'd say. I guess its design was too confusing and its lore literally non-existent. Another example of bad execution. Heading on over to Alola. Type Null and Silvally are indeed legendary Pokemon according to the game's code. While Type Null doesn't get a great reception among legendaries at least, Silvally manages to be slightly above average despite being an unconventional design for any Pokemon. This is where good implementation into the plot of the game kicks in. The Tapus are here. These guardian deities aren't evenly popular. Tapu Koko gets a majority of the love, with Tapu Fini getting a slight edge cause it too dominated VGC. But it's clear that Tapu Koko is the only above average guardian here, landing it in B tier, even higher than Pokemon like Entei and Palkia. As a whole, the reception of this quartet is slightly below average. Cosmog, despite being inferior in battle and more simple in design, manages to be slightly more popular than the average Tapu, thanks to its importance in the plot. Even Cosmoem is more popular than Heatran, Uxie, and Landorus. But let's get to the big boys. Solgaleo and Lunala are almost identical in reception, so much so that Solgaleo wins when there is only one option to vote, while Lunala wins when you can pick as many as you like. Necrozma isn't unpopular though, all three are above average. Literally A-tier legends for Cosmog's final evolutions. Necrozma gets a boost from its forms, Ultra Necrozma obviously being the most popular. But what's weird is that despite being relatively above average in the overall plot, when I asked you guys which groups were your favorite, the Light Trio got the lowest score so far for box art legends. I guess people like these legends individually, but don't really find them as cohesive as a trio. At least not as much as the Weather Trio, Creation Trio, or even Tao Trio, who do seem more well-rounded and cohesively themed. Now it's time for the Ultra Beasts. Despite a majority of you guys not considering them as legendary Pokemon. 47% of you like that they look weird, but a good chunk also don't respond to their weirdness or don't find them charming at all. Regardless, here are the results for these interdimensional creatures. Naganadel is the winner by a clear amount. To many, it's at the very least good in battle, and along with Poipole, the least unnatural looking of the UBs. When it comes to the original Ultra Beasts, Kartana seems to be the fan favorite. I'm assuming because it's really good in battle. Guzzlord is second because of its actual menacing design and even a bit of lore in game. A well-handled UB. Who's the least popular Ultra Beast? Celesteela. I get it, it's the most unnatural looking of the Ultra Beasts. Very unsettling. But all the UBs, except for the Naganadel line and Kartana, are significantly below average in the polls. Magearna is even more unpopular though, almost tied with Celesteela. The uniquely typed Marshadow, on the other hand, is by far the most popular Pixie Mythical aside from Mew, of course. Literally more popular than Deoxys and Zapdos. I guess it has it all in the design and concept area. It's both cute and cool, and Spectral Thief is very fun. It's simply missing plot relevance and a cool way of being obtained. Zeraora also manages to get an above average score, despite being a mythical. People think it's cool, good in battle, and I'm sure Unite has boosted its popularity as well. Meltan and Melmetal are slightly less popular, at most averagely received. People were definitely more intrigued by this line than other mythicals, but as you can tell, design-wise, people aren't as receptive to a nut with some mercury over an electric tiger. And finally, Generation 8, the Darkest Day Trio. Zacian seems to be more in line with fans' tastes, which is odd, since when they were first revealed, reception was pretty even. Zacian had a sword, but people thought Zamazenta looked more natural. At the end, perhaps people simply like how good Crown Zacian is in battle? Or they like wolves with swords. Eternatus is such an outlier, the least popular quote-unquote trio master, but Zacian and Zamazenta are above average, high B and low A. As a duo, they're more popular than the Light Trio and Guardian Deities, even though alone they're the lowest rated box art legends, which is understandable considering they're the newest. Obviously, people prefer their crowned form, not a surprise. Kubfu is understandably not what most people want in a legendary, still higher than Regirock, but Urshifu made it above the average line. Single strike form is a bit more popular, but Rapid Strike doesn't disappoint. They both at least do better than Zarude. Its relatively uninteresting design for a legendary and lack of real implementation in the game make it super unpopular. A D-tier legendary, Regieleki and Regidrago finally join us, becoming the most popular Regis. They seem more exciting to fans, considering they're not made of tangible raw materials. Regieleki has a fan-favorite design, animation, and of course, battle prowess, making it the only Regi that passes the average line. Glastrier and Spectrier almost make it. People think they're cool, and of course Spectrier is beloved in battle, but too many think that they're the simplest looking legendary Pokemon, considering they're as special looking as a Rapidash. I hate to end it with Calyrex, cause despite it being the legendary with the most in-game storyline, interaction, and even personality, its unconventional design makes it unpopular. Shadow Rider, for its superiority in VGC, has become people's favorite Calyrex form. So at the end of the day, when I ask fans what region had the best assortment of legendaries, Gen 4 won, with Gen 3 coming in really close, despite them not having the highest average score, but rather the most positive reception from fans, because the highest rated legendaries came from these two generations. Interesting to note that even though Gen 6 got the least amount of votes, when I asked people which gen had their least favorite assortment of legendaries, Gen 8 was the winner instead, then Gen 7, and then Gen 6. A reason for this is that people are more comfortable explicitly giving negative scores to the most recent generations. When asked for positive scores, the newer generations aren't dead last. It seems like newer generations are trying out more unorthodox ideas like Ultra Beasts and legendary regional forms. Some are hit or miss, but I think the creativity hasn't run out. Fans simply have a preconceived notion of what legendaries should be based on successful designs from previous generations like Rayquaza and Darkrai, but we also can all agree that quality over quantity applies to this group of Pokemon, and that we're hungry for future legendaries with cool designs and breathtaking stories. If you thought this video was breathtaking, leave a like and subscribe or follow me on Twitter to know when the next poll comes out. Make sure to check out the previous poll video on the starters if you haven't, and my now finished Asone region playlist. Consider becoming a patron or clicking the join button to get cool rewards like seeing videos days early and a huge discount on the t-shirts I made for you guys. My social media links are there too. I'll see you guys next week for a spooky video. Bye!